As the video game landscape continues to become populated with AAA blockbusters and indie darlings, there's never a shortage of fantastic games to discover. However, the downside of having so many titles readily at our fingertips means that it becomes increasingly harder for these games to find a home with audiences, even if they're showered with nothing but praise from critics. Even with an immaculate critical reception, there are unfortunately just as many outstanding games that have yet to receive the attention from wider audiences that they deserve. And that's what we're here to talk about today. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are the 10 best reviewed video games you didn't play. Number 10. Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. Thanks to their trio of big-budget blockbusters, ragtag superhero ensemble the Guardians of the Galaxy have become some of the most recognizable comic book characters in recent years, and their popularity alone should have led to excellent sales for Square Enix's Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. However, this title had everything working against it from the start. Not only were fans of the comics and films taken aback by the characters' new designs, but there was likewise still a bad taste left after the microtransaction-heavy mess that was Marvel's Avengers came the prior year. Consequently, the game released without much audience fanfare. Despite receiving masses of praise from critics and those that did play the game, with the title sitting at a commendable 80 on Metacritic, acclaim alone wasn't enough to earn sales. Boasting slick and zippy combat and exploration that utilized each of the Guardians' unique abilities, this game was simply a blast to play. Moreover, the writing was genuinely hilarious at times. The constant back and forth between the characters made for a riotous fun time. But it's the surprising amount of heart at the center of all of this which cements this game as being one of the best superhero outings that you can play right now. Number 9. HiFi Rush. After it was surprise released by developers Tango Gameworks in January, colorful rhythm action game HiFi Rush has since become one of the best reviewed games of 2023 so far. With its vibrant art style, slick and in-depth combat, and cast of memorable characters, it's not hard to understand why this game currently sits at a solid score of 89 on Metacritic. Playing as plucky protagonist Chai, each level saw players face off in fast-paced, bombastic battles against waves of enemies where getting that coveted S rank required mastering the combat, all whilst keeping in time to the pulsating beat which constantly drove the action forward. But even though HiFi Rush arrived on Game Pass on the day it was announced, general audiences didn't seem to give this title a try. Insider Jeff Grubb reported that, per an inside source from Microsoft, that HiFi Rush allegedly didn't make the money it needed to make. Taking this alongside achievement data which proves that only a small percentage of players got through the campaign, it shows that players just weren't clicking with what the developers created. Still, HiFi Rush is a game that Game Pass subscribers absolutely should check out. Number 8. Sunset Overdrive. A launch title for the Xbox One, Sunset Overdrive is a fantastic title that's gone largely unnoticed for the best part of a decade. Set within the colourful Sunset City and bursting with an energetic charm that never takes itself too seriously, wall running, grinding and bouncing through Insomniac's game whilst blasting endless hordes of enemies was an insane amount of fun. Critics likewise had a phenomenal time with this bombastic action game when it released, but even with near universal acclaim, Sunset Overdrive failed to make any real impression upon release. The reason for the title's disastrous reception could be put down to a combination of Microsoft's infamously messy launch of the Xbox One alongside a muddled marketing campaign that didn't give any indications as to what the game was actually supposed to be. It was the perfect storm of confusion which drew prospective buyers away from what is still arguably Xbox's best exclusive of the 8th generation. Now that Sunset Overdrive has been added to Game Pass, there's been a bigger call by advocates of this zany shooter to encourage others to try it. With some luck, this underappreciated gem might finally get the fan base it always deserved. Number 7. Marvel's Midnight Suns. Marvel's Midnight Suns is an exquisite tactics game from the XCOM developers Firaxis Games, which received heaps of positive reviews from critics, but unfortunately it had the misfortune of dropping alongside the Callisto Protocol, a highly anticipated release that stole the spotlight entirely. An in-depth RPG that utilizes challenging turn-based combat that forces players to think on their feet, this entry sees a large roster of comic book characters work together to stop the witch Lilith from destroying the world. Adding to the sense of comic book drama is the player's customizable character, the Hunter, and the fact that they're Lilith's child and the only one capable of saving the day. This familial spin put a surprising emotional twist on some of the events, with the smorgasbord of both iconic and lesser-known heroes encountered along the way only underscoring how massive this game is. Outside of its sprawling narrative, the battles are where Midnight Suns shines the brightest. Factoring in area attacks, enemy change, environmental hazards, and movement combos, you need to make the most of every turn. Defeating waves of enemies is never easy because of this, and Midnight Suns' punchy animations really make emerging victorious feel incredibly satisfying. In short, Midnight Suns is the ultimate superhero power fantasy you've yet to play. Number 6. Citizen Sleeper. In eye-catching indie sci-fi game Citizen Sleeper, players inhabit a space station known as Erlin's Eye. As a titular sleeper, a human consciousness in a robotic body that's owned by a mega corporation. Taking inspiration from tabletop games, each day on board the ship begins with a handful of dice rolls. These rolls are then used to determine the chances of success whichever actions players undertake that day as they strive to complete various odd jobs in order to obtain funds for the medication that sleepers need to stave off planned obsolescence. The premise may sound complex and a little clunky, but Citizen Sleeper excels at its various ideas to create a thoroughly engaging experience from start to finish. Although players don't get to explore the vast space station on foot, creator Gareth Damian Martin has nevertheless managed to frame a living world through thoughtful writing. Like any good slice of sci-fi storytelling, Citizen Sleeper functions as a profound metaphor for life, as players must choose how to spend their time, balancing between maintaining their character relationships whilst also finding ways to survive each day. Named as one of the best games of 2022, it's actually a tragedy that more people haven't played this underrated RPG. Number 5. Virginia. Helmed by the small development team Variable State, Virginia is an atmospheric thriller that's reminiscent of David Lynch's Twin Peaks. Playing as a rookie FBI agent, the plot follows Anne and her investigation into the disappearance of a small boy alongside her new partner Maria. However, the further into this rabbit hole that she goes, the more surreal it becomes. With dialogue absent throughout the entire game, the bulk of the emotional storytelling is carried by the breathtaking score created by Lyndon Holland. Combined with the game's use of cinematic editing techniques which expertly takes players from scene to scene, Virginia is an enthralling experience that's unlike any other game out there. Now, like most walking simulator games though, the gameplay itself is as minimalistic as it gets. Each sequence is boiled down to walking around an area and interacting with the right item in order to progress the plot. Now, while this simplistic approach isn't as involved as some other modern games, it's the unraveling of this cryptic story which has led to Virginia's critical admiration. Playing Virginia is like being at the center of an intoxicating mystery film which only grows more and more compelling as it approaches its brain-bending conclusion. Number 4. Pentiment. Coming from Obsidian Entertainment, the team behind Fallout New Vegas and Outer World, Pentiment is an engrossing RPG which was unlike anything else the developers had done before. Set within 16th century Bavaria, players take on the role of a traveling artist known as Andreas. They've just taken up residency in a small town at the start of the game when they become embroiled in a murder conspiracy. From here, the bulk of the title is spent choosing which of the breadcrumb trails of clues to follow in order to uncover the truth. As players become more acquainted with the inhabitants of this lusciously animated world that is designed to look like medieval illustrations, they'll begin to form relationships with each of them. But nothing about this multifaceted tale is ever black and white. Players must use their own wit and instincts to draw their own conclusions whilst talking to each of the suspects. Brought to life with some of Obsidian's best writing to date, Pentiment is a riveting and thoroughly engaging whodunit that is set within a fantastically realized historical setting. But releasing in the same week as God of War Ragnarok, however, means that it's not surprising that this award-winning thriller definitely went overlooked. Number 3. Night in the Woods. When college dropout May returns home to the sleepy town of Possum Springs, she discovers that things have drastically changed since she left. Economic troubles have caused the town to begin to stagnate, her high school friends have begun to move on with their lives, and the discovery of a severed arm early on kicks off an enthralling mystery which may have some rather supernatural elements. Despite the overarching mystery gradually pulling at an enticing plot, this side-scrolling indie darling is a game that is all about the smaller things in life. Rather than fighting enemies, players will spend most of their time hanging out with May and her friends, eating pizza, attending band practice, and telling ghost stories. At its core, Night in the Woods is a bittersweet coming-of-age tale that thoroughly explores the anxieties surrounding entering adulthood, and these themes seep in through every aspect of the writing. Whether it's learning snippets about May's past or intimate conversations between friends, the game is emotionally devastating and will definitely bring a tear to the eye of anyone who plays it. Equal parts funny, reflective, and heartfelt, Night in the Woods never misses any of its beats to deliver a truly unforgettable gaming experience. Number 2. Signalis. Signalis is one of the best survival horror games in recent years, period. When our android protagonist wakes up to find the space facility that they're on has been overrun with monsters, their search for answers leads them deeper into an eerie, retro-futuristic world, and the more they learn, the more questions begin to arise. The foundations of this top-down cyberpunk nightmare are rooted firmly within the style of classic survival horrors like Silent Hill and Resident Evil. Alongside utilizing limited inventory space with even scarcer resources, solving puzzles and escaping enemies makes up the core of its gameplay. Fully leaning into its slow burn atmosphere to instill a sense of inescapable dread, Signalis is a deeply unnerving experience in the best way possible. Through constantly subverting expectations, the developers demonstrate a keen knowledge of the genre to ensure that players never feel safe whilst exploring the claustrophobic corridors, when defeated enemies can suddenly reanimate or danger is never far away. No matter how horrifying things get though, you will be compelled to uncover more about this captivating world. And number 1, Return of the Obregon. Now, the premise of playing as a 19th century insurance loss adjuster examining the wreckage of a merchant ship doesn't exactly sound like an engaging concept for a game. However, Lucas Pope, the sole creator behind Papers, Please, managed to turn this idea into an endlessly intriguing joy which takes the shape of the Return of the Obregon. Presented in a lo-fi visual style, the game plays out like one elaborate puzzle box. Using a magical pocket watch that allows the player to see the last moments of each of the ill-fated crew, it's their task to decipher how each of them met their end alongside uncovering their identities. The more pieces of this Lovecraftian flavored puzzle are uncovered, the more this tragic tale is revealed. Although the ship and its crew have been missing for 4 years, the world and characters are brought to vivid life thanks to stellar voice acting coupled with an impressive number of environmental details. With each new clue, players will become further ensnared within the tales that are waiting to be discovered. But despite receiving a near perfect score, general audiences weren't convinced that methodical detective work would be this captivating and rewarding. How wrong they were. And there we go, my friends. Those were the 10 best reviewed video games that you didn't play. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below. And if you want to chat to me further on the social medias, you can go over to Instagram and Twitter, where I'm at RetroJ, but the O is a 0. Hope to see you over there. But before I go, I just want to say one thing. Now, hopefully, from this video, you may have got some new titles that you fancy checking out. But there's also one more thing that I want you to do as well, to check out with yourself, to see how you're doing. Ask yourself, am I okay? Because you know what, my friend? It is okay to say, no, I'm not okay, and I need help. Because trust me, you've got friends, you've got family, you've got professionals in the support industry that all want you to do well because they believe in you and they know that you are a massive ledge. And it's never a bad thing to ask for help, okay? You deserve the best things in life, like love, happiness, and success. We all do as human beings, and don't let anything or anyone else tell you otherwise, all right? I want you to go out there and smash it today. But remember, you don't have to do it alone. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that. And I'll speak to you soon. Bye.